Okay, imagine this. You're a sophomore in high school.
Right.
It's the very last day of the school year. The sun is shining, grass is green. You've got that feeling of just absolute unbridled freedom that only comes when summer is right there.
The best feeling.
The best. You're at baseball practice, standing there, glove on your hand,
Yeah.
maybe thinking about homework being done forever or girls or, video games. You are completely, totally relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a split second, your entire life just goes dark.
Yeah, that's a terrifying image to even think about. And for James Clear, the author of the material we're covering today, this wasn't some hypothetical. This was just a Tuesday.
A literal hit to the face. And we are not talking about a little bump here. We are talking about a loose baseball bat slipping out of a classmate's hands during a full, terrifying swing.
Oh, wow.
It flew through the air like a helicopter blade and struck Clear directly between his eyes. He didn't even remember the impact itself.
And the medical details here, they sound harrowing, but they are absolutely crucial to understanding the whole philosophy you're about to get into.
Yeah.
This wasn't a walk-it-off kind of injury. The bat literally crushed his nose into a distorted U shape.
Oh my God.
The force was so violent that it sent the soft tissue of his brain slamming against the inside of his skull. So you're talking immediate brain swelling, multiple skull fractures, shattered eye sockets.
Yeah.
It's as bad as it gets.
And the chaos that followed. I mean, just picture being in the nurse's office and they're asking her the basic questions to check for a concussion.
Right, the standard stuff.
They ask him, what year is it? He says 1998.
Wow.
It was actually 2002. They ask, who is the president? And they looks up and says, totally confident, Bill Clinton.
There's George W. Bush.
Right. And he couldn't even remember his own mother's name instantly. It took him like 10 full seconds just to say Patty.
That is a sign of just significant life-altering trauma. And it got worse. And it got worse fast. He lost consciousness not long after that.
He stopped breathing on his own.
Yeah, he had to be airlifted to a bigger hospital, placed in a medically induced coma. This wasn't just some sports injury. This was like a factory reset of his entire physical being.
And the recovery, it wasn't a montage scene from a movie, He's not back on the field in a week hitting home runs.
No.
It was slow. It was painful. He lost his sense of smell, for one thing.
Which is still gone, I think.
Yeah. And at one point, he blew his nose and his left eye literally bulged out of its socket. The air pressure went through the fractures in his eye socket. He couldn't drive for 8 months. He had to learn how to walk in a straight line again.
This is the context we need, because when Clear finally did return to baseball years later, he wasn't the biggest guy anymore. He wasn't the strongest, and he certainly wasn't the most talented.
Not anymore.
He couldn't just rely on that raw ability. He was, for lack of a better term, damaged goods in a super competitive field.
Yeah.
He had to find a totally different way to compete.
He had to pivot. And that pivot led him to Denison University, where he just started small.
Painfully small.
Yeah, painfully small. He realized he couldn't just try harder than everyone else. He had to live better, keeping his room tidy, going to bed early. And this is where it gets really interesting. This traumatic, life-altering event.
Yeah.
It's what forced him to discover the framework that we are going to unpack for you today.
It forced him to discover atomic habits.
Exactly. And that is the mission of this deep dive. We are taking the source material, the absolute mega bestseller Atomic Habits by James Clear, and we're going to debunk the biggest myth in self-improvement.
The overnight success.
We're going to smash that idea completely.
And we should probably define our terms right at the top, because the title can be a little misleading. When we say atomic, we aren't just talking about something being small.
Right.
The word atomic has two meanings. Yes, it means tiny, like an atom, a single irreducible unit. But it also means the source of immense power.
Like an atomic bomb.
Tiny changes, nuclear results, that's the clickbait promise. But today, we are actually going to deliver on it. We're going to break down exactly how to hack your brain, build the good habits, dismantle the bad ones, using a framework that's backed by biology, psychology, and neuroscience.
We're going to look at the math of success, which is pretty surprising. The 4 laws of behavior change and how you can structure your environment so that success becomes, well, almost inevitable instead of this constant struggle of willpower.
So let's jump right into that first segment, the math, because I think people here get better every day or 1% better, and they just roll their eyes.
Yeah, it sounds like a motivational poster.
Totally. In a dentist's office, it feels like fluff.
Yeah.
But the math is actually It's wild.
It is. And the best way to really visualize this is to look at the story of the British cycling team.
Oh, the story's amazing.
If you go back to, say, 2003, this organization was, well, let's be charitable and say they were underwhelming.
Underwhelming is the polite academic term. They were mediocre for a century, a full 100 years. Since 1908, they had won exactly one gold medal
Right.
in the Tour de France, the biggest, most prestigious race in the world. No British cyclist had ever won in 110 years. They were basically a laughingstock.
It was actually so bad that one of the top bike manufacturers in Europe refused to sell bikes to the team.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah, they were afraid that if other professionals saw the Brits using their gear, it would hurt their brand reputation.
Yeah.
They literally thought, if they ride our bikes and lose, people will think our bikes are slow.
That's just humiliating. Please don't ride our bikes. You're making us look bad. So then this guy, Dave Brailsford, enters the picture.
Right, they hire him as the new performance director, and he has this philosophy that sounds almost too simple to actually work. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. Brailsford just believed that if you broke down everything that goes into riding a bike and improved each little piece by just 1%, the cumulative effect would be massive.
And he didn't just mean, like, training harder or pedaling faster.
No, everyone tries to do that.
This is the best part. He went totally obsessively granular. We're talking about the weird little details. They redesigned bike seats for comfort. Okay, sure. But then they started rubbing alcohol on the tires for better grip.
They had the riders wear electrically heated overshorts to keep their muscle temperature absolutely ideal while riding.
That's incredible.
They tested different massage gels to see which one led to the fastest possible recovery time. They weren't just looking at the bike, they were looking at the human biology itself.
They even hired a surgeon
Oh, yeah.
to teach the riders the proper way to wash their hands.
Which seems trivial, right? Like, what does that have to do with cycling?
A lot, it turns out.
Yeah, until you realize that in a team sport, one sick rider affects everyone. Reducing how often people got the common cold meant fewer missed training days. If you miss fewer days, you train more. It all compounds.
But my absolute favorite detail, and this is the one that really sticks with me because it just seems so neurotic, is the truck.
The truck, yes.
They painted the inside of the team truck white.
Not for aesthetics.
No, not because it looked nice, but because on a white floor you can spot dust. And dust degrades the performance of the finely tuned bike mechanics. It was that level of detail.
It's the aggregation of all those tiny things that other teams just ignored because they seemed completely irrelevant. And the results, they were just undeniable.
Just 5 years after Brailsford took over, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the British team won 60% of the gold medals available.
6%.
4 years later in London, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. Bradley Wiggins becomes the first British cyclist to ever win the Tour de France. Then Chris Froome wins it again and again and again.
From please don't ride our bikes to the most dominant run in the history of cycling.
All because of 1% improvements.
And this brings us right to that mathematical principle that Clear really emphasizes. It's the concept of compound interest, but, applied to self-improvement.
Let's run the numbers, because our brains are just not good at exponential math. If you get 1% better every single day for a year, just 1%.
So mathematically, that's 1.01 to the power of 365.
And the result is 37.78.
You end up 37 times better.
Not double, not triple, 37 times. That's insane leverage.
And, conversely, if you get 1% worse every day, you degrade almost all the way down to 0. The problem is we don't see this happening in real time. We expect progress to be linear.
Right. We think if we put in the work today, we should see the result today. We expect that instant payoff.
Which Clear calls the valley of disappointment.
Yes, and this is such a crucial concept for anyone trying to learn a skill or lose weight or start a business.
Exactly. He uses this great analogy of an ice cube. So imagine you're sitting in a cold room. It's 25 degrees Fahrenheit. There's an ice cube on the table.
Okay.
You start heating the room. 26 degrees. The ice cube is still an ice cube.
Nothing happens. You're putting in energy, but the result is 0.
27 degrees. No change. 28, 29, 30, 31. Still nothing. You've done all this work to increase the temperature, but there is absolutely no visible evidence of your effort.
This is the moment most people quit.
This is it. They say, I've been working hard for a month and nothing has happened.
They think the system is broken.
But then you hit 32 degrees and the ice begins to melt. A 1-degree shift, seemingly no different from all the previous shifts, unlocks this huge change. All that energy wasn't wasted.
It was just stored.
It was stored. And this is what he calls the plateau of latent potential.
I love that phrasing. Your work was not wasted, it was just stored. That's something you should put on a sticky note when you're just grinding and seeing zero results.
Totally. It's potential energy just waiting to become kinetic.
And once you finally break through that plateau, that's when people call you an overnight success.
Exactly. They only see the melting. They didn't see you heating the room from 25 to 31 degrees. They didn't see the James Clear recovery period. They just see the bestseller on the shelf.
Okay, so we know the math works. The British cycling team proved it. The Ice Cube proves it. But how do we actually, how do we apply this? Because usually when people want to change something, they set a goal.
Right.
I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to write a book. I want to make $1 million.
And here is where Clear drops a somewhat controversial truth bomb. He suggests that we should essentially forget about goals and focus on systems instead.
Goals are for losers. Okay, he didn't say it that harshly, but that's kind of the vibe I got. Isn't that totally counterintuitive? We're taught from kindergarten to set goals. Smart goals. Big, hairy, audacious goals.
It is counterintuitive, but the logic is actually really sound. He points out that winners and losers, they usually have the exact same goals. Every athlete at the Olympics wants to win the gold medal.
Yeah.
Every job candidate wants the job. So if the winners and the losers both have the same goal, then the goal cannot be the thing that differentiates them.
Right. It can't be. It's not the goal that makes the difference. It's the system they execute day in and day out.
Exactly. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. So if you're a coach, your goal is to win a championship. Your system is how you recruit, how you run practice, how you analyze game film. If you completely ignored the goal and just focused on the system, just on the practice, would you still get results?
Probably better results, honestly, because you're not stressing about the scoreboard all the time.
And there's another problem with goals that I found really interesting. They're temporary.
Right.
If your goal is to clean your room and you summon all this energy to clean it, great, you have a clean room. But if you haven't changed the sloppy habits that led to the mess in the first place, you'll just have a messy room again in 3 days.
You're just treating the symptom, not the cause.
And as Clear says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
That is a quote to live by. You fall to the level of your systems. So, okay, if we aren't focusing on goals, what are we focusing on? This leads us to the idea of identity. This felt like the deepest part of the book to me. It's not just behavioral, it's psychological.
It is. It's the deepest layer of behavior change. You've got outcomes, that's what you get. You've got processes, that's what you do. And then you have identity, that's what you believe.
Okay.
The most effective way to change your habits is not to focus on what you want to achieve, but on who you want to become.
The example from the book for this is just, it's perfect. 2 people are offered a cigarette.
Right. Person A says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Sounds reasonable. That's what most people would say.
It does, but just think about the implication there. They still believe they are a smoker who is attempting to be something else. They're hoping their behavior will change while they're carrying around the exact same beliefs. I have a smoker, but I'm trying not to smoke right now. That takes a ton of willpower.
And person B.
Person B says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker.
It's such a small difference in wording, but it signals a massive shift in their identity.
Precisely. Behavior that is incongruent with the self, it will not last. You can want to have more money, but if your identity is someone who consumes rather than creates, you'll just continue to spend.
So the goal isn't to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner.
Yes.
The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader.
Exactly. And this connects right back to that whole atomic idea. Every single action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. You're casting votes with every little thing you do.
And as those votes build up, the evidence of your new identity grows. You don't need a unanimous vote to win an election, right? You just need a majority. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to cast more votes for the runner identity than you do for the couch potato identity.
Okay, let's pivot to the really practical application. We have the philosophy systems over goals, identity over outcomes, but Clear gives us a very specific framework, the 4 laws of behavior change.
Right. This is the how-to. This is the user manual for your brain. If you want to build a good habit, you make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
Let's go through these one by one. So, law one, make it obvious.
This law is all about the cue. Most of our habits are just automatic. We don't even notice we're doing them. You walk into a dark room, you flip the light switch, you don't think about it.
No thought at all.
So the first step to changing a habit is just awareness. You have to handle the cue.
And the example here comes from the Japanese railway system, which is fascinating.
Yes, the pointing and calling system. If you watch a train conductor in Tokyo, they look a little silly to an outsider.
They do.
They'll point at a signal and shout, "Signal is green." They'll point at the speedometer and say, "Speed is 80." They point at the platform and say, "All clear."
It looks weird, but the data on this is incredible.
It reduces errors by something like 85%. And it works because it raises the status of a non-conscious habit up to a conscious level. It forces you to be aware of what you're doing because you're engaging your eyes, your hand, and your voice.
So how do we do pointing and calling in our regular lives? I mean, I don't think I'm going to stand in my kitchen shouting, "I am eating a cookie," at the top of my lungs.
No, probably not. But you could use a strategy called implementation intentions. See, a lot of people think they lack motivation when what they really lack is just clarity. They say, "I want to work out more," but they don't say when or where. So they wake up and think, should I run now or maybe later? That hesitation is where the habit dies.
The formula he gives is just so simple. I will behavior at time and location.
Exactly. I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. It just cuts through all that fog. You're not deciding if you'll do it anymore. You already decided. Now you're just executing the plan.
And the cousin to this strategy is habit stacking. This is one of my personal favorites because it feels like cheating. It makes it so easy.
It's brilliant. The formula is, after a current habit, I will new habit. You're anchoring the new behavior to something you already do every single day without even thinking about it.
So after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or after I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes.
The old habit becomes the trigger for the new one. You're basically piggybacking on neural pathways that are already built in your brain.
Yeah.
It removes the decision fatigue. You don't have to remember to meditate. The coffee reminds you.
And part of making it obvious is just environment design. You know, if you want to practice guitar, don't keep the guitar in a case in the back of the closet under a pile of laundry.
Right.
Put it on a stand right in the middle of your living room.
Visual cues are the strongest catalyst for our behavior. The human body has about 11 million sensory receptors. Something like 10 million of those are dedicated to sight.
Wow.
So if you don't see it, you probably won't do it.
All right.
And conversely, if you want to break a bad habit, using the inversion of this law, you simply make it invisible.
If you can't stop checking your phone, put it in another room.
As Clear says, self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. You can't fight your environment forever. Willpower is like a battery and it just drains.
Totally.
So design your space so you don't even need to use willpower. If the cookies are on the counter, you will eat them. If they're at the store, you probably won't.
So true. Okay, law 2. Make it attractive. This is all about the craving.
This gets right into the dopamine feedback loop. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of desire. We are biologically driven to seek out rewards. The problem is, modern society is filled with what evolutionary biologists call supernormal stimuli.
Like junk food.
Yep.
Or, Instagram.
Exactly. Evolutionarily, we are wired to seek out salt, sugar, and fat, because those things were rare on the savannah. If you found a fig tree, you ate as much as you possibly could.
Right.
But a bag of Doritos or a Cinnabon is engineered by food scientists to be more attractive than anything found in nature. It's like a mannequin with exaggerated features. Our brains just go wild for it.
So how do we compete with that? How do we make doing our taxes or going for a run attractive when Netflix and Doritos are right there?
Well, one strategy is temptation bundling. You pair an action you need to do with an action you want to do.
The story of Ronan Byrne, the engineering student, is the perfect example of this. It's hilarious.
It is. So he loved watching Netflix, but he knew he needed to exercise more. He was out of shape. So being an engineer, he hacked his stationary bike and connected it to his laptop.
As you do.
Right. He wrote a little Python script where Netflix would only play if he was pedaling at a certain speed. If he slowed down, the show paused.
That is just genius. He was literally powering his entertainment with his own sweat, eliminating obesity one Netflix binge at a time.
Now, most of us can't hack our electronics like that, but you can do a low-tech version.
Sure.
Only listen to your favorite true crime podcast while you're doing household chores.
Right.
Only check Instagram while you're holding a plank.
Yeah.
You make the hard thing the gateway to the fun thing.
I also want to touch on this social aspect of law, too. This idea that we imitate the people around us. This is the peer pressure element.
Totally. We imitate the close, so our family and friends,
Yeah.
the many, our tribe,
Yeah.
and the powerful, those with status.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make a habit attractive, you should join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior.
Like the nerd fitness example.
Right. If you're a nerd who wants to get fit, walking into a gym full of bodybuilders might feel really intimidating. You feel out of place. But joining a community of people who love Star Wars and lifting weights, suddenly the new habit feels like it's part of your identity. Belonging is a massive, massive motivator. We don't want to be the odd one out.
Okay, moving on. Law 3. Make it easy. This is the response.
This law is all about friction. And here we have to distinguish between two things that sound the same but are definitely not. Motion and action.
Oh, I am so guilty of this one. Motion is the planning, right? The researching. Looking up the best diet plan, buying the best running shoes, color coding my calendar.
Motion feels like progress. It makes you feel good. But it produces absolutely no result. You can research diet plans for a year and not lose a single pound.
Right.
Action is the behavior that actually delivers the outcome. Eating the healthy meal, doing the squat.
So why do we stay in motion then? Why do we spend weeks researching the best gym instead of just going to one?
Because it allows us to delay the risk of failure.
Ah.
If I'm just planning, I can't fail yet. To break this cycle, you have to make the action really, really easy. And the best story to illustrate this is the photography class experiment.
This was the Professor Jerry Olsman at the University of Florida.
Right. He divided his film photography students into two groups. You have the quantity group and the quality group.
So the quantity group was told, your grade depends only on how many photos you take. 100 photos gets you an A, 90 gets a B. I don't care if they're blurry.
And the quality group was told, you only need to submit one photo, but it has to be perfect. One single perfect photo gets an A.
So at the end of the term, who had the best photos?
The quantity group, by a mile.
No way.
Yeah, because they were out there just taking photos. They were experimenting with lighting and composition, developing film.
Yeah.
They were making mistakes and they were learning from them. They were engaging in action.
Mm-hmm.
The quality group, they just sat around theorizing about what perfection looked like. They were engaging in motion, and they ended up with little to show for it, but mediocre photos and a bunch of unverified theories.
So we need to stop theorizing and start doing, but starting is the hard part, which leads to the 2-minute rule.
This is arguably the most practical tool in the entire book. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
But wait, my goal is to run a marathon. I can't do that in 2 minutes. That takes hours.
No, but you can put on your running shoes. That's the gateway habit. You have to standardize before you can optimize.
Okay.
You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist yet. If you can't learn to just put on your shoes every day, you certainly aren't going to run 5 miles every day.
So the goal isn't run 5 miles. The goal is put on shoes and step out the door.
Exactly. Even Twyla Tharp, the famous choreographer, she says her ritual isn't the workout itself. It's hailing the cab to go to the gym. Once she's in the cab, the ritual is complete and the rest just follows. It reduces the activation energy you need to start.
It sounds like a psychological trick. You know, I'll just read one page, but the whole point is just to master the art of showing up.
And you can design friction to help you with this. There's this concept from Oswald Knuckles of resetting the room. So when he finishes watching TV, he puts the remote back on its stand, he folds the blanket, he clears the table. He's priming the environment for the next use.
He's making it easy to start the next good thing.
Right. And you can use this for bad habits too. You just increase the friction. If you watch too much TV, take the batteries out of the remote after you use it.
Or move the TV into the closet after every use.
That's hardcore.
It is, but I mean, if you really want to watch something, you'll go get it. You just won't watch it mindlessly anymore. You're forcing a conscious choice by adding that friction. You're breaking the automated loop.
Exactly.
Finally, Law 4. Make it satisfying. This is the reward.
This brings us to what he calls the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
But we live in a delayed return environment. You go to the gym today, you don't lose weight today. You save money today, you're not rich tomorrow. In fact, usually the immediate result of a good habit is pain.
Totally.
The gym hurts. Saving money feels like deprivation.
Exactly. Our brains evolve for immediate returns, finding food, avoiding predators.
Wow.
We have this immediate return hardware, but we're living in a delayed return world, so we have a mismatch. To stick with a habit, We need to add a little bit of immediate pleasure to that long-term payoff.
Like the toothpaste example he uses.
Right. Why is toothpaste minty? Mint doesn't actually clean your teeth.
Right.
Detergents and abrasives do that.
Yeah.
But the mint creates that cool tingling sensation. It tells your brain, it worked. My mouth is clean. It's an immediate, satisfying signal. Before mint was added, people didn't really brush their teeth because there's no reward.
So we need to engineer our own minty feeling.
One way is habit tracking. It provides visual proof of your hard work. There's a story about a sales guy who used 2 jars. One was filled with 120 paper clips. The other was empty.
Okay.
And every single time he made a sales call, he moved 1 paper clip from the full jar to the empty jar.
That visual progress must be so satisfying, just watching that pile grow. It's tactile.
It is. Yeah. And it taps into our desire to not break the chain. This is the famous Seinfeld strategy.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld would mark a big red X on a calendar every day he wrote a new joke. After a few days, you have a chain. And your only goal becomes not to break that chain.
But life happens. We get sick, we travel, the chain breaks, and then we feel terrible about it.
And that is the dangerous moment. That's when that all-or-nothing thinking kicks in. We think, I ruined my streak. Might as well just give up entirely.
Right.
Clear's rule for this is simple. Never miss twice.
Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new bad habit.
Exactly. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to get back on track immediately. A bad workout is infinitely better than no workout because it maintains the habit of just showing up. You preserve the identity. You're still voting for the runner, even if it was really slow run.
Okay, we've covered the 4 laws. Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying. But let's get into the advanced stuff for a minute. Because sometimes you look at someone like Michael Phelps and you think, okay, sure, he has good habits, but he's also just a genetic freak.
It's a valid point. And Clear doesn't shy away from this at all. Genes matter. They don't determine your destiny, but they absolutely determine your opportunity.
The comparison he makes between Michael Phelps and Hisham El Garouj is fascinating here.
Yes. So Phelps is the perfect swimmer. He has a long torso, short legs, huge hands that are like paddles.
Right.
And Hisham El Garouj is a legendary Moroccan runner and Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
He has a short torso and incredibly long legs. So both are like 7 feet tall in their own way.
Yeah.
Phelps in wingspan, El Garouj in leg length. But if you swap them,
if Phelps tried to run distance against El Garouj,
he would be mediocre, probably worse than mediocre, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And if El Garouj tried to swim against Phelps, he would lose every single time. They are elite because they found the game that aligned with their biology.
So the lesson isn't genes decide everything. It's play a game where the odds are in your favor.
And if you can't find a game, create one. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, he admits he's not the best artist in the world. He's not the funniest comedian. And he's not the smartest businessman.
Okay.
But he's better than average at all 3. And by combining them, drawing plus humor plus business, he created a niche where he was the best in the world.
That's really empowering. You don't have to be in the top 1% in one thing. You can be in the top 25% in 3 things and just overlap them. But even if you find your game and you build your habits, eventually it gets boring.
And this brings us to what Clear calls the greatest threat to success.
Yeah.
And it is not failure, it is boredom.
We think we need passion. We think elite athletes are just fired up every single day. We watch the Nike commercials and see them sweating and screaming and think that's just how they always are.
Yeah, and there's a great story about a weightlifting coach. Someone asked him, what's the difference between the best athletes and everyone else? And he said, at some point, it just comes down to who can handle the boredom of doing the same lifts over and over and over again.
So the elites get bored just like we do.
They absolutely do. But the difference is they show up and do the work anyway. Amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals stick to the schedule. You have to, in some way, fall in love with boredom to achieve mastery.
And to stay motivated through that, we can use the Goldilocks rule.
Right. Humans experience peak motivation when we're working on tasks of just manageable difficulty. Yeah. So imagine playing tennis against a 4-year-old.
Boring. Way too easy.
Now imagine playing against Serena Williams.
Demoralizing. Way too hard. I wouldn't even hit the ball back once.
But playing against someone who's your equal, that's engaging. You win some, you lose some. You have to focus. That state, which is roughly 4% beyond your current ability, is where the flow state lives. That is how you keep the boredom at bay while you're still building the habit. You just keep pushing the bar slightly higher.
So what does this all mean? Let's recap the whole deep dive system here.
We started with the idea that these tiny changes, these atomic habits, they compound into massive results. 1% better every day is 37 times better in a year.
We learned that we need to build systems, not just set goals. And more importantly, we need to shift our identity. I am a runner, not I want to run.
And we have the 4 laws: make the cue obvious, make the craving attractive, make the response easy, and make the reward satisfying.
And finally, we learn that success isn't a finish line you cross. It's a continuous process of refining that system. It's not about finishing the race, it's about becoming the kind of person who keeps running.
Before we go, I do want to leave you with one final thought. It's a philosophical concept called the Sorite's paradox, or the paradox of the heap.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine you have a single coin. Are you rich?
No.
If you add another coin.
Still no.
What if you add another, and another, and another?
Yeah.
At some point, you have a heap of coins. At some point, you are rich. But no single coin made you rich. The same is true for habits. One workout doesn't make you fit. One salad doesn't make you healthy. But at some indiscernible point, a change occurs. You cross a threshold.
And you melt the ice cube.
You melt the ice cube.
So here's our challenge to you. What identity are you voting for today? Don't think about the whole year. Think about the next 2 minutes. Pick one habit. Put on the running shoes. Open the book. Write one sentence. Start the chain.
And never miss twice.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening. Now go build some systems.
See you next time.